I'm glad to be back in the Valley. I actually spent a decent amount of time here about 10 years ago when I was with this group called Enroll America. And our whole purpose was to help people sign up for health insurance through the Affordable Care Act. And so I ended up serving as the deputy state director and would come to the Valley about once a month, every other month, to check in on our team, meet with our partners, make sure our enrollments were going well. And that whole experience was one of the sparks that really pushed me to run for office. Seeing how a piece of legislation implemented at the ground level was impacting people directly in a profound way, that was really powerful for me. You had the law, Affordable Care Act, it was starting to get rolled out, and our job was to sign people up. So we would go into communities and work with trusted partners. Some of the names I've heard mentioned today were some of the groups we worked with, and not only get people enrolled, but what was it going to take to get people signed up at that moment? If they were coming to a community center, if they were coming to a health center, you had to bring everything right then and there. And talking about health insurance, it's complicated. So you need to make sure that the navigators were well-versed in how to communicate that to folks. You had to make sure the technology was there. You had to make sure people felt comfortable. And to get them across the finish line, you saw that impact right then and there. We had people that would sign up and go and break down into tears because it was the first time that they had ever had health insurance. And they were going to go get that yearly exam, that mammogram. And they were so relieved. Seeing that in person was one of the things that pushed me to want to run for office and really serve the public in a way. Because it's one thing to say, hey, we helped get this law passed, right? But how is it being implemented on the ground? There's so much more that goes to it that makes it even more impactful. And that part to me was really critical. So I spent some time down here. I haven't been back since about 2014, but I see a lot has changed. There's been a lot of growth, a lot of development, and it is good to be back. And I want to thank y'all for having me. I represent a district that is 68% Hispanic on Houston City Council. I'm the only openly LGBTQ member of Houston City Council, and we're a big city, right? 17 people on our council and one openly LGBTQ member. So while I represent a district, I've always told people from day one, from our very first meeting, wherever you are in the city, if you need help, if you need resources, if you need to reach out to somebody because you feel like you don't have that from your member of council, or you want to talk to someone that's a part of your community, reach out to my office. And I take that responsibility very seriously because I have seen the need grow in recent months for representation, for visibility. But for Houston to be as diverse as it is, we have had our peaks and our valleys when it comes to this. We elected a openly lesbian mayor back in 2009, and then we had a few LGBTQ council members, and then for the past term before I got onto council, we only had one, and we only had one Hispanic as well. He was actually the same person, which, people laugh, but that's the reality, We have had opportunity to see as diverse as Houston, only one Hispanic and one openly LGBTQ member of council, same person. So we now have tripled our Hispanic representation on council, which is great, but we've got work to do. And I wanted to be here today because, to me, what's happening here, this event is critical. It's critical. We have seen support for LGBTQ initiatives in the community and businesses and organizations that serve the population start to erode. And that's when the help matters even more. And that's when the people who stick by you during the tough times, that's when you really got to say, hey, thank you. We're gonna get through this. But the ones that don't, that's something to remember. And who's here with you when it's not as easy and when it's not as convenient. Yes, people can put rainbow flags on their logos and celebrate Pride Month, but right now when it's tough, who's here to support you? And so I wanted to be here to offer my support because it's critical, it's crucial, and I'm really glad that this is happening. I think it's a testament to the chamber and the leadership, so I want to recognize that and give them a round of applause. Because it is important. My journey to council, I'm a native Houstonian. My parents still live in the house I grew up in. I now get to represent that neighborhood, District H on council. My grandpa came over from Mexico when he was young. My dad was 2 or 3 at the time, but he got a mentor who taught him real estate. And they settled in a working class Latino neighborhood that was mostly renters. And my grandpa started a real estate company because he learned the value of purchasing a home and not always having to rent. And so his goal was to help all his friends who lived nearby become homeowners. So he started Castillo's Realty, and he had it for 40 plus years, and that was his mission. But it impacted the neighborhood, it impacted the community, and it got my family just tied to their area in a way that was more than we know our neighbors, but no, we're invested in the success of our neighbors. We're invested in the success of our friends, of our community. And so for me to see that, to have my public health background and experience, and I thought, you know what? Why not? Why not run? Why not put myself out there? And it wasn't easy by any means. I will tell you, it took a lot of hard work. Definitely faced some adversity just from the fact that I was an openly gay man, and my opponent trying to use that against me with a smear flyer, but it didn't work. It backfired, which shows you that, those tactics, while they may have some visibility at the moment, while maybe some loud noise around it, people will still see you for who you are. And I made a point to knock on as many doors as I could during my campaign throughout my district, face to face. And after that happened, and I was still out there doing it, that text went out to everyone, right? But they would say, you know what? This isn't you. I can tell. I've had conversations. I've met you. I've seen you. This isn't you. And so it didn't work, and that shows what visibility, what representation, what being out there can do. And one of the things that I want to encourage y'all to do is to really get involved, and to really find a way to serve. That could be this organization. That could be something more local, like your civic club in your neighborhood. It could be serving on a board or commission that's a part of your city. There are great ways to, one, meet the folks and build your skill set. If you're in accounting and you're trying to figure out a way to learn something new, a board is a great place to do that. You can become the fundraising chair. You can become the secretary. You can take on these roles, and they may not be what you do every day, but it helps you learn something new. You have a support system so that if you stumble, people are there to pick you up. But think about, after that experience, what you're going to learn and what you're going to be able to continue to do after that. And being visible on these boards, on these commissions and organizations, it's critical, because I could tell you from being on council now almost 2 years, we hear from a lot of the same people over and over. And the ones that are engaged, even the ones that show up to talk to us at city council. And And so I'm always encouraging people to get involved because the perspectives, the voices that you bring, they carry a lot of weight, especially when there's a few percentage of folks participating. When you have that happen, there's opportunity. We're always looking for people to want to step up and to want to serve. And that visibility and that representation, it's critical. One of the things that I saw after getting elected was folks reaching out. You know, they message the campaign, Facebook, or they message the Instagram, and it's like, thank you for running. Thank you for doing what you're doing. I'm in high school, and this is inspiring. This shows me that this is a possibility, or there is someone that's willing to do this. So I feel like I can put myself out there in that way sometime down the road. One of the first things that I created was an internship program through my office. It was called the District H Horizons Internship Program, and it was meant to give folks an opportunity, paid 6-month opportunity at City Hall. And I've asked folks to support it, businesses, other organizations, because it doesn't always have to stay in my office. And if we have folks that can support financially, we can put an intern in our parks department. We can put an intern in public works. We can put an intern at our metro department and give exposure and give experience. A lot of times those jobs, those city hall jobs, those municipal government jobs, they go to people who have a connection, who have some kind of, oh, so-and-so recommends me, or I know this person. But having that experience can help you break that barrier. And then what happens? You have more folks from different communities, from different perspectives that are now serving in these roles. And you have a better local government in that regard. You have one that's more responsive. You have one that has more appreciation for different perspectives and different values. And so now we've had 3 cycles of interns come through. One of them I ended up hiring on my team. And the goal is to really grow this program to give disadvantaged populations, when you think about who is working at City Hall, who you see in your different departments, a chance. We can't specifically say only Hispanic, only LGBTQ folks apply, right? But we highly encourage them to, because again, that's where we're seeing the lack of representation. And that's really been the approach. It's what can be done, what can we do to find a way to make an impact, to find a way to make a difference in a tough climate, One of the other things that I'm really proud of was this past June, at our budget meeting, I put an amendment forward to create a position at the City of Houston through our Office of Business Opportunity, which is where all of our certified businesses go, all the contracts with the city go through, your goals on minority participation, women participation, it all runs through that office, to create a position for an economic empowerment coordinator that's focused on the LGBTQ community. And the way that it was set up was seniors and youth, LGBTQ seniors and youth. This position was going to help connect our seniors and our youth to economic opportunity and to help those businesses get our city LGBTQ designation for certification. And we were able to get that established. The person, I believe, is in the hiring process right now. We're going to have a press conference in a few weeks to announce all of this. But now the City of Houston, has a dedicated staff member who's working with our youth and working with our seniors to help get them connected to economic opportunity. And 2 vulnerable populations. We have a lot of homeless LGBTQ youth at Houston. And we have seniors that are on fixed income. They're living longer, which is great, but they have challenges financially. So what can we do to help address those? That came from an idea of just what can you do to help? What can we do to make a difference, to make an impact? And so the business community, our chambers, they supported it. Our Hispanic chamber supported it. The LGBTQ chamber supported it. AARP supported it. You know, we went out and found organizations that have stakeholders and said, hey, come testify, counsel, come write a letter of support, do what you can do to help get this across the finish line. Because it wasn't ever going to be a done deal. You know, this was a new thing. It was kind of pushing some boundaries, but there's roles for chambers to play in that space. And there's roles for chambers to support that kind of work and really make something like that a reality. You got to be a little creative and figure out how that can work in your specific region or your state or your county. But it can be done. It can be done. And I would say spend some time thinking about that. You know, what could meet the need here? What can fill a gap that's currently out there, and how can you help make that happen? Or what's the idea that you have that you can bring to the table and say, hey, let's talk about this, or let's go meet with some of our council members, or let's go meet with some of our elected, meet with your county clerk if you want. But, you know, that creativity, that proactiveness, it helps just keep these ideas coming, and some of them are going to work and some of them aren't. But think about what can be done if just two of those ideas come to fruition, you know? And so in tough climates and challenging climates, it's definitely easy these days to get discouraged. I'm not going to lie. There's just not a lot of good news that we see with a number of different things. But that doesn't mean we can't stop trying, that we can't stop having hope, that we can't stop figuring out a way to make something positive happen. Because there is a lot of need out there, absolutely. And y'all can play a key role in that. It just requires just thinking a little bit outside the box and maybe doing something you haven't done before. But that's okay. You know, that's why we're here, and that's what we're trying to do. That's how my approach is to service and to being a city council member in Houston. My district's 220,000 people, so we've got it's a big district. We've got just so much in terms of diversity of communities, of neighborhoods, and so these programs really can help on a micro level, you know, and then maybe get adopted or changed or tweaked to get put and brought to other places where we're making a bigger impact, we're making a bigger difference. But I wanted to highlight those two specifically, the internship and the economic empowerment coordinators, because local chambers of commerce in Houston play key roles in making those happen. In fact, our interns, you know, they get to go and spend time out in the field with whoever they want. It could be an organization, a nonprofit. And one of our interns, she chose the Hispanic Chamber in Houston. She spent the whole day shadowing Dr. Laura Murillo, and she came back with the biggest smile on her face. She had so much fun. She learned a lot, and she got to meet some of the members. She participated in all these different things that whole day. And that's where the magic happens. That's where you can learn and grow. And she now has a mentor that she didn't have before. You can take her and guide her and show her a number of different things. But again, two really important initiatives to my early term, and Chamber of Commerce were key to making both of them happen. So I definitely wanted to highlight that and to just encourage people to be a little creative, be proactive, and think outside the box, because good things can happen when you do that. And also just, again, encourage folks to serve, because there are a lot of opportunities out there And for me, we need new people, we need new perspectives, we need new ideas. We don't necessarily want the same people in the same positions for 35 years on a local municipal board, right? We want some folks with diverse ideas and energy. But I also don't want to just talk to y'all for 30 minutes. I do want to take some questions because I enjoy interacting with crowds and hearing what are the things that are on your mind and being able to have a conversation. So I will pause now to offer time for us to Q&A if anybody has any questions.
Second, so you go to bed.
Yes.
And that will help. Plus, I understand. I usually just
Oh, nice.
price it. But what I love is risk. And so I believe that you will go out. Not to go anxious, obviously. There are some challenges that you work with that you have to come. Like you can ask that can be educated, less more perspective, like what you have to do. The reason why we come in the show, I feel there's a lot of different areas here. And I like to go about the legislating. Hey,
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, the door knocking was probably the most impactful thing that I did as a candidate. You're talking to people face to face on their doorstep. You're also seeing what they're telling you up close and personal. When they're telling you, hey, I have this issue here, or this ditch always floods, or people always run this stop sign, you're looking at it with them. So you can take that away and you have a good idea of what your neighborhoods need or what those issues are that they're facing. But it does, yes, there are challenges. Besides all the stray dogs you have in District 8 and the trades, the challenges that faces, a couple of our folks got bit actually. I always block walked with a bunch of dog treats because of that. You know, it's hard to kind of break through some of the barriers that people have now with just someone knocking on their door. A lot of people now have Ring cameras, so that makes it a little easier because you're usually wearing a campaign shirt, you've got material, you could say, hey, I'm running for office, but there's hesitancy to engage with someone at the door. People are like, I don't want to, you know, and people are busy. Sometimes they're out in the yard with their kids. Sometimes they're watching a football game, or they come to the door, they're like, I'm in the middle of cooking dinner, 10 seconds, what do you got? You know, so you've got to really be able to find a way to make an impression or communicate whatever that one key message is in a really short amount of time. That makes, to me, that if you're able to do that, you're able to leave that impression. I can't tell you how many people I saw at the polls when I was there come up to me and say, I talked to you at my door, I'm here to vote for you, you came to my house, all of these things. It works, it absolutely does. But it takes a long time. It's not efficient. You're literally walking neighborhood by neighborhood. You have to start early. It's hot in the summer, but you can't stop, right? You have to deal with that. But it does really make an impact, and that on top of all the other things that you're doing with getting that message across, communicating to voters, that is a good foundation for being successful. But it does have challenges, absolutely.
I feel you might kind of bring my question a little bit with what you just said now, but what advice would you give any, and you said it's different than the Valley, right? So what advice would you give any to a member of the LGBTQ community who wants to run for public office as an individual here in the Rio Grande Valley?
Great question. Also, a couple things.
I think that's what you're going to say here.
Question was, what advice would you give to someone who wants to run as an LGBTQ candidate here in the Valley, coming from Houston? it makes a bigger difference than you realize just running. You'll hear it and you'll get the feedback of what your candidacy is doing to others who are watching in terms of its firing, in terms of just reassuring. Now, I know it's not going to be easy for everyone to do. And to some folks, running puts yourself at a safety risk. It puts your family at a safety risk, especially for our out trans candidates. It's really not easy. And saying, just do it, you can't really do that to everybody that's in the community, because there are other considerations that a trans candidate will face, or a lesbian candidate will face, or a gay candidate will face, and you've got to think through that. But if it's the right call to make, and if you do it, you do have an impact beyond just your race, like your campaign. And I think that we move the needle when we do things like that, because of the way we are talking to voters, the way we're engaging with communities, and we're showing ourselves as who we are, not just as the gay candidate or the lesbian candidate, but the person who wants to do X, Y, Z, the person with this experience, the person with these ideas, and the person that's like, oh, yeah, so-and-so knows them, they're great. He's done this, he's done that, he's been involved. Okay, we're going to support, It helps in a number of ways, but I recognize that it's not easy. And it isn't. Even in Houston, where you would think it's not a big deal, some of our candidates last cycle that were LGBTQ, including myself, had issues and faced attacks because of it. So here, I'm sure that would also be the case. The cycle before I ran, there was an openly lesbian Hispanic candidate. She ran for the seat. She made it to the runoff. She wasn't successful, but she faced a lot of homophobic criticisms. And with a district that's 68% Hispanic and it's older, the current government used that to their advantage, and that, is still the reality, across a lot of parts of Texas. But I recognize that it's a scary thing to think about and to do. You got to make sure it makes sense. But if you come to that conclusion, do it. Don't let the doubt talk you out of it, because that's really easy to do as well. And that's always there. But even if it's not a successful first campaign, the impact that it has, it's real, and it's profound. Any other questions?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, diversity in NCTI in my direct out. Yeah, so even like with Robert, I'm Tom Brescigan, the chair to be for next year for this and Tim Murphy's. They even play this project come, you guys are on it, saying to keep back from that community. There was the feedback, this is the first time ever like we're doing an LC's 2+ type in. So, what advice do you have for us to make sure that we find support, that we're representing all eyes? What advice do you have for us to stand around and still continue the fight? We're making some great progress. What advice to Kat said to continue that despite this hectic DI? So whether you're Hispanic, Black, gay, or all of the above, like it's really important to keep fighting.
It really is, and the core message is to keep going. It's not to stop. One thing that we're seeing in Houston with respect to just grants and dollars and support and all these things, reframing how we talk about something. So we used to get a lot of federal money for transportation projects in Houston. They included a bike lane, they included a green space, they included wide pedestrian sidewalk. Now we don't talk about any of that stuff. We talk about roads and bridges, and we can include those in the project, but we don't say a bike lane. We say something multimodal, something else, you know? And there's been that shift on a number of different perspectives, including DEI. So companies now are calling their employee resource groups something different, but then the same function, you know, and they're committed to keeping it, right? They don't want it to go away. So they're finding a way to make it work. We're doing the same thing at the local government level with how we're trying to secure funds, how we're trying to secure support. I would say keep going and figure out a way to still get those sponsorship dollars, to still get those commitments, but tailor how you're approaching it. Same goal, same sort of methods, but we're rebranding it, right? We're tweaking how we talk about something. Because I don't think that this will be forever, right? This is going to be floating in terms of the environment. Things come and go in cycles. There's an ebb and there's a flow. And I'm sure at some point we'll be back to kind of where things were to a degree, and if not more. But to get through this, we've got to adapt, right? We've got to tailor our message and what we're saying, what we're doing, while the core mission is still the same. And so I would encourage y'all to continue. I'm glad you still did this. I really am. I mean, it's so important now more than ever to say, look, we are still going to be inclusive. We're going to support diversity. We're going to have this event, and we're going to do it again next year. It's going to be even bigger. But yes, I don't stop, right? Keep going. Figure out how to change things here or there so that you can keep going to get through to the other side, to get through what we're going through.
It's having just it's going to be the last question, but in reference to what you was talking about right now, I think would you make or touch on the subject of we need to continually provide the culture, what we believe in, what we feel is right. Will you as a elected official say that what will be in the need to get us to continue progressing to align with change as something that's in ours?
Great question. And my answer to that is, with sort of the onslaught of things that are happening, it can be overwhelming and it could be demoralizing. And the goal is to get people to give up, to just say, this is too much. I can't keep up anymore. I'm going to stop fighting, and when you do that, then they win. And it's a lot harder to come back after that, right? We can't let that happen. Like we just cannot let that happen. And so despite every sort of day you wake up and the headline of this or that, or the suicide line funding is cut and trans people can't serve in the military. I mean, the HIV research dollars are gone. I mean, it's a drumbeat. It's a drumbeat, and it can be a lot. We can't give up. We cannot let that beat us down so much that we stop fighting back. We stop trying to make progress or help the community in some way. And that's where local really matters. Despite what's going on federally and statewide as well, you can do things here that help the community still. That's where the Economic Empowerment Coordinator came from. What can we do in Houston to help Houstonians despite the state, despite the federal government? So take it back to local, take it back to your community, take it back to neighborhoods, organizations here, because those things are really important and they make an impact. They make a difference. And it helps give people hope so that to know this isn't going to be forever. And we have to keep trying. We have to keep fighting. Because if you don't, and you give up, which is the goal. Like the goal that they want is for you to just be so demoralized, you stop caring, you stop fighting. It's a lot harder to come back from that, and we can't let that happen.